With how competitive basketball has gotten over the past few years, just talent is not enough to guarantee your name in the Hall of Fame. It's hard work and determination that takes you the farthest. We've seen too many talented players vanish from the spotlight just because they let their egos get in the way. In this video, we're going to list down some NBA players who blew their shot at becoming stars. First up, Allen Iverson's tragic downfall. On paper, Allen Iverson seems like one of the best NBA defenders of all time. He was an MVP winner, an 11-time All-Star, and a 4-time league scoring leader. The former Georgetown Hoya averaged 26.7 points and 6.2 assists over 14 seasons. But while Iverson was shining on the court, he didn't have the best reputation in the locker room. In fact, he was famous for being extremely hot-headed. Iverson would often argue with head coach Larry Brown in Philadelphia. Not to mention, we all remember when he threw a tantrum after Brown called him out for frequently skipping practice. Brown had reached his limit after Iverson showed up late to the Sixers fan appreciation night, and he was eventually traded to the Denver Nuggets. He did reasonably well with Denver, but with no major improvement in his attitude problems. He was transferred to the Detroit Pistons. It is here that things started going sideways for the player. Iverson was forced to the bench by multiple injuries, and he had decided that he had had enough. He would much rather retire than be a bench warmer. Despite his statistics, almost every franchise that he has worked with has said that the player has no work ethic. If Iverson had remembered that basketball is a team sport, he might have won a few championship rings and established himself as a basketball legend. Moving on, Kwame Brown is NBA's biggest disappointment. At one point, former high school prospect Kwame Brown was so famous that the Washington Wizards selected him as the first overall choice in the 2001 draft. People have changed their views on Brown since then, and he is often called one of the biggest draft busts in NBA history. And the main reason for this is 180 in his public image was his attitude. In short, he became famous quickly in the industry for being someone who just wasn't willing to learn or be coached. Throughout his career, Brown has averaged 6.8 points and 5.9 rebounds only, which makes you wonder what exactly went wrong for the 6'11", 270-pound player. In 2001, Michael Jordan chose the then high schooler Kwame as his #1 pick. However, when Kwame couldn't live up to Jordan's high expectations, he became a target. Industry Insider says that Kwame had to deal with a lot of trash talking and criticism during his time. As a result, Brown was never able to develop the kind of confidence and mindset required to become an NBA star. But there are a few fans that say it was Brown's immaturity that got in the way. They argue that it would have been better if Brown finished college first before getting thrown into the NBA world, since he clearly wasn't mature enough to handle constructive criticism. It's a shame to see players like Kwame be hyped up to the point where no matter what you do, it's never good enough. Up next, Jay Williams' short NBA career. When the Chicago Bulls selected Jay Williams with the second overall pick in the 2002 draft, many fans had high expectations from him. He had made a name for himself as an excellent point guard at Duke, and the team hoped he would give them the edge they needed to dominate the court. Unfortunately, though, Williams' career was cut short when he got into a terrible motorcycle accident in 2003. Williams was riding his black Yamaha R6 when he lost control of the motorcycle and rammed into a pole. He suffered multiple knee ligament tears, a hip fracture, and the severing of a leg nerve in the collision. Williams was a young, ambitious player who had a lot to prove, but his poor choices ended his career before he ever got the chance to do that. Following up, Stephen Marbury's ego held him back. Similar to Allen Iverson, Marbury was an above-average player if you look at his stats. He averaged 19.3 points and 7.6 assists per game in his career. However, the player was a wasted talent because no matter which organization he joined, he flat-out refused to listen to advice. His short stint with the New York Knicks is the best example of this. The Knicks administration selected Larry Brown as their head coach in 2005, and while fans knew it would take time for the team to get used to the new coach's defensive strategies, Marbury made the process even more difficult. Brown and Marbury had a public argument, and the coach was sacked after only one season. Marbury still didn't learn his lesson, which eventually led to his falling out with coach Isaiah Thomas. He was bought out the next year. If all of this isn't proof enough, only 26 games were won by the New Jersey Nets during Marbury's final season with the franchise. The Nets reached the NBA Finals the year after Marbury was transferred to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for Jason Kidd. So clearly, Marbury was doing something wrong. Not to mention Shawn Kemp's substance abuse issues. Shawn Kemp was often called the hardest dunker in the NBA. The 6'10" power forward participated in the NBA Finals. When his Seattle Supersonics lost to Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls, and during the course of a 14-year career, he was chosen for 6 All-Star teams. He had a respectable series average of 23.3 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks despite the result. Kemp, however, was not without flaws. loss. His minutes per game dropped from 30 to 15 after the Cleveland Cavaliers dealt him to the Portland Trail Blazers in 2000. And you might be wondering, how could his performance get that bad that quick? You see, Kemp was dealing with severe substance abuse issues. He was addicted to drugs and a borderline alcoholic. His season was cut short that year, and he entered rehab, and he only played in 68 games. Since then, Kemp has failed to make a comeback in the NBA. Who knows how much more he may have accomplished if he had chosen a path. Coming up, Anthony Randolph took his skills for granted. Anthony Randolph was often compared to Josh Smith and Lamar Odom when he was a rookie. Golden State chose Anthony Randolph in the 2008 NBA draft due to his freakish skills. The all-around forward had made quite a name for himself early on, and it wasn't for a good reason. Now, we can understand how young athletes with exceptional talent can struggle if they aren't in a good organization, but with how many times Anthony switched orgs, something was off. He was talented, but he was unable to use his skills properly on the court. Anthony mentioned in an interview that he was taking classes at LSU throughout the lockout. He said that he was focusing on studying and putting aside all distractions. The distractions here were, of course, his job as a professional basketball player. Following up, Eddie Curry gave up on his career. Eddie Curry was selected as the 4th overall pick in the NBA draft, that too straight out of high school. But his career never really took off. During his time with the Bulls, he struggled with health issues. During training camp, he often complained of having chest pains and lightheadedness. The franchise decided not to take a risk with Eddie on the court and instead benched him. The 295 pounds and 7-foot-tall player was eventually transferred to the Knicks. He was able to get 19.5 points on average with the Knicks, which was a career high for him. Unfortunately, though, Curry went into a slump again. He gained weight and was injured very often while playing. He was never able to justify the huge salary he got from the Knicks, and his gameplay kept on deteriorating. Finally, Greg Oden's unfortunate injury. In 2007, NBA draft Oden was the first pick. Kevin Durant was chosen in the 2nd round, and looking back now, a lot of people agree that choosing Oden was a mistake. The thing is, back then Oden was considered a once-in-a-generation player. He was an amazing playmaker, and very few could compete with his skill. Oden was averaging 11.1 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks per game. That too in just 23.9 minutes per game during the 2009-10 season. He could be a dominant center, and he was only 22 years old back then. But before Oden got a chance to participate in the NBA game, he badly injured his knee and had microfracture surgery. He missed multiple NBA seasons, and we never really got to see him play at the same level again. Greg Oden's professional basketball career came to an end in 2013 at the age of 28. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think was the player with the greatest wasted potential? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.